This is my fourth or fifth web summit. I've always loved coming here. I love the group. And I'd like to share with you a little bit of story on change, a story of how large organizations, corporations have to change. So I'm with Procter & Gamble. There we go. We need to, and I want to start with a video. The video, here we go. We're having a little slide difficulty.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad. Right? Or a hilarious beer ad. Or whatever ad this is. Whatever. But it's a Tide ad.
What?
It's a Tide ad.
What makes it a Tide ad?
There are no stains. Look at those clean clothes. What else would this be an ad for?
Diamonds?
A gift that lasts for
No, Tide.
It's time for a cold refresh.
Tide ad.
Fall into the sleep of
No. Tide. No. Tide ad.
extreme.
No. Tide.
Tide!
Meet the all-new.
No, it's a Tide ad. Tide.
So, does this make every Super Bowl ad a Tide ad? I think it does. Watch and see.
Hello again, ladies. Is your man the kind of man who would climb the height? I'm in a Tide ad.
Nice pants.
Get off my horse.
Tide ad.
Beautiful. Like a Tide ad.
Sarah? Sarah.
It's a Tide ad. Sometimes the signs are hard to ignore. Whenever you see clothes this clean, that's a Tide ad.
Clean clothes may be an indication of a Tide ad. Tide users experience 10 times more cleaning power. Tide is America's #1 detergent in America.
Well, I wanted to start off with something that starts thinking about how to reinvent. You don't always know what you're seeing. You don't always see what you think you're seeing. And that was just one example from a very successful Super Bowl commercial that we ran last year. But what I wanted to really get into was, how do we rethink technology at large enterprises? We have a history of doing things the same way over and over, and we need to change. And as I've been studying this with a friend of mine from Forbes magazine, we realized that large corporations across the board have been practicing best practice-based IT strategy now for close to 20 years. And these best practices strategies actually are inhibiting our ability to innovate and to do new things. So I decided to go where we all go for information. I decided to look at Wikipedia. And Wikipedia says that best practices is a technique, a method that is accepted as superior to any results. And because of this, it has become a standard. And so large corporations and medium-sized corporations have accepted that we're competing on standard-based technologies, standard-based processes. But once you start looking at a standard and you start creating it, your competitors start following very quickly. Therefore, there is no competitive advantage as you start moving forward with best practice-based IT. And in doing so, what this really means is that we have been spending 20 years commoditizing the IT functions in major corporations around the world. In order for a company to innovate, in order for a company to be able to move forward, we have to break ourselves from this past, and we have to move forward. So, when you take a look at this, what I realized was this is very much similar to any addict. It doesn't matter what your addiction is, but you have the same thing going on. So let me take you through a little bit of the history of IT. For those of you that may have been around in the 70s and 80s, we had things that were called mainframes. I'm not sure how many people here actually were around in that era. But we had things called mainframes, but applications were developed independently. They were not, the mainframes were built primarily by IBM, and there was a dissent decree in the United States that said IBM also could not build applications. That was by the Justice Department. So you had individual application developers and owners running things on these mainframes, and the employees in large corporations were heavily technical. And they had to be. You had to know how to manage memory. You needed to know how to tune databases. You needed to know how to submit the jobs. It was a completely different era than we face today with mobile apps and web apps and everything else. And so we had these large pools of technical people that were really moving the industry forward in the corporations. Then in the 90s, the ERP systems came about. These were corporations like Boheme. We have SAP and Oracle, JD Edwards and others, and PeopleSoft. Some of them are here. Some of them have gone and been merged. And we had a lot of tech consultants come in and say, you know, these ERPs are so complicated, we have to teach you how to implement the technology, how to implement the processing. This is where the commoditization began. The employees within the IT organizations of the large corporations were slowly being weaned out and replaced by consultants. In the 2000s, the concept of offshoring, sending technology and software development off to far distant lands for lower costs began. So we started to outsource. Commoditization started moving faster and faster. And we started going forward and outsourcing the entire IT departments. General Motors was famous for this in the 2000s, where they literally sent all of their IT people off to work for a company named EDS, and they took over. Well, while this was going on, we have in the mid-2000s, we had the establishment of what I call data oligarchs, or the rise of the data oligarchs. And these are the Googles and the Amazons and the Pinterests, the Facebooks and others that determined that there is value in data, and started extracting data, started using that information to disintermediate large corporations around the world. The large corporations didn't catch on to this very quickly, and it left all the large corporations at a competitive disadvantage. So then we get into 2010 and a little beyond, and all of a sudden everybody is panicking within the large corporations. We need to take back IT. We need to be able to start doing things differently. We need to act like a startup. I'm sure many of you have heard that phrase, act like a startup. And corporations started pulling things back in with the recognition that data was important. We saw value in it. So we have to start unwinding all the outsourcing. We have to start unwinding the offshoring, starting to bring technical talent in-house. And what do we find? The technical talent actually has preferred to work at the small startups, all of you, at some of the more progressive corporations. So it's turned into a battleground. So we need to learn to adapt. And just to give you an example on how to adapt, I wanted to introduce my dog. This is my dog, Katie. And Katie is 12 years old, and you always say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Think of a corporation. But I'll tell you, Katie is a smart dog. It used to be when the doorbell rang, the dog would run to the door and bark and let you know that somebody's there. Well, she's taught herself over the last few years that when I get a text on my phone, it must be important, because every time she saw me pick up the phone, right after a tone went off, she'd come run over to see me. Well, she's taken this to an extreme, unfortunately, is that she's gone to the point now where the text will come in, she'll immediately run up, let me know, that's fine, I pick up the phone, and that's okay. But at night, I put my phone in the other room, I'm asleep, a text comes in the middle of the night, the dog recognized the text, she runs into the bedroom, decides to jump on the bed and wake me up. So if a dog can learn new tricks and can learn to adapt to new technology, corporations and large corporations and individuals also need to be able to do the same. So when I started thinking about addiction and adaption, I said, let's look at some of the proven approaches that we have in order to get better. The first thing you have to do is admit you have a problem. If you don't have a problem or don't admit you have a problem, you're never going to be able to move forward. We have to admit that the actions that we've taken through practicing best practices and relying on consultants has really made IT powerless within a corporation. We've lost the trust of everybody in the large corporations. We have to realize this is a very grave problem. This is a very large problem we have to address. We have to address quickly if we're going to compete in the future. And then we have to go to the C-suite, to the CEO, to the CFO and others and say, look, we've made a mistake. For those of us that have been in the IT business for a number of years, it's really not that hard, because we usually only stay 3 or 4 or 5 years at a company, so you change over and it really doesn't matter. You're apologizing for somebody else's mistakes or putting it off on them. But once you go through that, then we have to realize here's the hardest part for all of us in large corporations. Best practices in the ERP model is actually holding IT back. ERP has a place within a corporation. Best practices have a place in a corporation. But as we talked about on the previous slide, it's for those things that commoditize IT. It's not for those things that are differentiators. The differentiators have to come from the startup community. It has to come from those companies that are innovating at a pace that we can't keep up with. Once we accept these 5 steps, the 6th step is recognize you can recover and do something about it. There is a better future for IT in a corporation today than there ever has been before. We're merging with the business. We're seeing spends increase at record levels. We have to now bring back the IT professionals. When we have the IT professionals in-house, we have the ability to think differently, to move forward with new technology. Once we create that digital agenda with the IT professionals and the startups and everybody else, now's the hard part. We have to go out and proselytize. We have to go out and promote, not just to our customers and our consumers, but the rest of the employees within the corporation. If you take a look at these steps, there's famous programs that are based on 12 steps. It's very, very simple because we have the exact same problem. So we have to really stop undervaluing IT. We need to look at IT as the way venture capitalists do, which is a portfolio approach. We have to make a lot of small investments. Gone are the days of the tens of $1 million deals. Gone are the days of the deals that are $1 million or $2 million. There's a lot that can be done for $50,000 to $100,000 or more. I live in the Silicon Valley. I see it every day. I see companies starting up and individuals starting up, funding it on their credit cards. Corporations have more ability, have more assets than that, but we need to take that same mentality of spreading this out. The biggest thing that a corporation has to change is we have to accept failure. There is nothing wrong with failing forward. If you fail forward fast, you can move with the market. This is another area where we have to learn from the startup community, because everybody in the startup community understands what the word means to pivot. Corporations have to learn to pivot as well. And of course, learn from history. Thomas Edison was reported to have said, when he was inventing the electric light bulb, I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways it doesn't work. But you know what? He found a way that it did work. And since then, Philips and others have improved upon it, and we have something completely different. So as we're looking at the new age of what's going on, we want to look forward at new technologies and what is P&G and other companies doing, and we started working with AI. And I wanted to introduce Nancy Pinot, who's a colleague of mine. Nancy, would you come up to the stage for a minute? So,
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Nancy. So I asked Nancy the other day to help out with a demonstration because I was quite honestly worried about Wi-Fi working and not working in the facility here. And we want to go through a demonstration of applying machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is one of the new technologies. Again, it's not an ERP. And I thought Nancy would be great to be able to tell you what she did. So I'm going to take you through the steps of what we went through, and she'll explain the actual process that she went through in doing this. So what we did was it's all about image capture. There's some questions, we analyze skin, and then we can recommend regimen. So Nancy, why don't you take it over from here and take us through it?
Yeah, so Alan asked me to actually help him analyze their product and show their product. And I said, what do I have to do in order to help you? And he said, just take a picture of yourself, which is what I did. I said, I can do that. I downloaded the app. I chose a picture. This is actually me at home, last week. It started analyzing. I was a little bit worried, and then it kind of told me what to do. It was telling me to select certain things to analyze my skin and to understand what I use, what I'm worried about, what it is that women have a fear of, which is obviously what skin type I have, and also how many or what products I actually use, which is quite a few. So cleanser, serum, facial treatment, eye product, and I think moisturizing cream as well, everything. And how many times I use them, and the morning and the evening, what feel I like to have, as you can see. I mean, it guides you through it very easily, and I was actually
then what happens
very happy about the result.
Yes. As you can see, her skin came out as an age 19, so I think that's a a very good, looking at her, it's actually a very good, I think, very good picture here for us. So,
Thank you.
but the point behind here is that we used image recognition from a regular iPhone, and you took the picture. Technology has advanced so much that by using the phones that we have available today, no special photography needed, using machine learning, having set up a bank of GPUs at Amazon in order to help us at AWS because you can do it so quickly, you have the ability to do new things, which means we can create new products and services. So thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
So yes, let's have a big round of applause. Thank you. So where we're trying to go is we're trying to apply machine learning. These are areas that we're interested in. The Olay Skin Advisor was one example. We're looking for new business models. These are things that we want startups to bring to us. First-of-a-kind marketing technologies, tools, and techniques are extremely important. That is a competitive differentiator for Procter & Gamble. Looking always for supply chain. I'm looking for a lot of IoT type of activities, not platforms, because we're using the platforms that exist. But if you have new business models, new ideas on how to use IoT, and we're looking at ways to manage risk and security. So what I wanted to do was take you through one last video very quickly here. And this is about technical innovation, but it's not about digital innovation. But I wanted to share this with you because it's a very powerful video and a powerful story about how rethinking a problem that's been existing for over 100 or 200 years can be done and how it can actually change lives and create opportunities.
Good morning, sir. Ready to get up? Let me get your feet up. How you doing today? Okay. Good morning.
I remember always looking at my dad's arms like when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. He had arms like Popeye. He was a tugboat captain, and I so admired his physique. And now it's a different story, you know? And that's just the way it is. So my dad had a stroke, and now he can't get around, he can't walk. And he needs me to help him out. And my son Luke and I have been doing it. And I'd do anything for him.
I can give you a really good mohawk. You look like a punk rocker.
There's a definite role reversal that happens. I have to wake him up in the morning and take care of him and groom him and shave him and shower him. It's actually an honor to do that for your father because he did it for me when I was a kid. My dad's got the greatest face. His squishy face is just amazing. He's sort of thin-skinned and I don't want to cut it at all. So I got to be careful with that face. Like he'll just say, do this, do that. You got to make sure that you shave my neck down. You got to do my lips up. You know, he was really particular about his sideburns.
That's where your sideburns start? I'm not going to touch your sideburns.
Okay, good.
Okay? How am I doing so far, Dad?
Okay.
You know, it takes me like a half an hour to shave my father because I have to be so careful.
Tell me what that is.
Okay, I will. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Love that face. Hi.
I'm one of the lucky ones. A lot of my friends my age do not have their dads, and I still have my dad. He always says to me, he looks up at me after I pour love on him for the whole day, and he says, "I don't know what I did to deserve you." And I say, "Dad, I got you. I got you, Dad."
So, as you can see, something as simple as a razor that for hundreds of years, 4,000 different razors were designed exactly the same way. The innovation, the thought process of finding a problem, changing the problem, it's not as simple as simply turning the handle. There's a lot of engineering and a lot of change that goes on this. But with that, you can actually impact people's lives. You can create new businesses and new opportunities. And that's what P&G is about. We look forward to innovating with all of you. We look forward to working with the startup community around the world. I want to thank you very much for the time.